Greetings, friends. I hope you're having a good day, that you're getting going with the work that you have. I was thinking a lot about calling, and maybe I'm not 100% prepared to get into this conversation today, but I wanted to chat with y'all a little bit about it. What do you think? Like, when you think about the work you're doing, what is it for you? Is it work? Is it a job? Is it career? Is that what you're pursuing? Or do you sense a calling? Like, is it a calling for you? Does that language ever even come together in your head? That's kind of what I'm wondering. I'd love to hear your thoughts about that. Does that even make sense today? Like, what is calling? And that's kind of what I'm thinking about. And I just want to share a couple thoughts with you about it today. So I was thinking about this because, as you start your year this year, as you start working, whatever it is you're doing, what is it you're doing? Like, if you're climbing this ladder and you get to the top of that ladder, and then you find that it really isn't the ladder, that you're not even where you really want to be, then is that really a good use of your time? So as we are planning and getting going this year, the first place to start is, am I going in the right direction, right? Like Stephen Covey said, one of the habits of 7 habits of highly effective people that he brought to light was to begin with the end in mind. And I think that's really purposeful, right? If I'm thinking in a 360-degree direction, like if I was going to take a trip and I wanted to go to New York, I'd have to aim in the direction of New York relative to where I am, right? But then I'd have to be asking myself, well, why am I going to New York? What is the purpose of that? What is that going to provide for me? What am I doing in the way of service that is going to be meaningful to that? Otherwise, I'm going to spend a bunch of time pursuing that, and it's not going to necessarily accomplish anything. I might feel like my time was wasted. So if I am going to spend my time this year planning a year out, I need to first start with, what am I doing? Where am I going? And why? And maybe even, why am I going there? Now, a lot of times we already know our why. We've experienced that, or at least we think we have. We've asked ourselves that question. So if you've asked that question and you know it, great. If you haven't, well, then why not? Right. And I think sometimes people don't ask that question because it doesn't feel like it has any answer. Right. You're just sitting around exploring your navel, like, what is my purpose in the world? Right. But I think there is a way to get to that. And over the next couple of days, I want to talk a little bit more about that. But today, I just wanted to start with, why would I even consider it as a calling as opposed to just something I want to do, right? Because I mean, that's the other option, So, are you a person that's just pursuing what you want to do, or do you believe that there's a calling? And when you use the word calling, you have to start with, I was called. Somebody called me and said, hey, I have something for you. And that, of course, can get into the spiritual side of things, the spiritual side of the world. So, first off, do you believe in calling? Do you believe that that's something that you have? Uh, if you do, that assumes, that you believe that there's a God, and that God has a specific purpose for you, right? So a lot of times we're saying, well, what is our purpose? But if I'm called because there's God and He's designed me uniquely, and we all know we are unique, right? So like right off the bat, that's sort of a hint that we do have unique purposes, whether we want to accept that we get that from God or not. But if we were designed unique and we're made unique and we have unique backgrounds and unique things, then it's not far-fetched to say that God has a unique purpose for us. Now, He has some common purposes for us, but I believe He also has a unique purpose for us. And so, I want to be able to look at that. So for me, I want to say, like, here's how I see it. And maybe you don't see it this way, and that's fine. But I just kind of was thinking through, like, hey, what are some of the things that come to me in the terms of calling? So first off, it means I believe that there is a God. and that he has formed reality. And so I must understand whatever I'm doing um, by understanding that he's formed reality, and therefore I have to spend some time understanding that reality and how to interact with it. But I'm part of that reality. Like, I'm part of this reality, and part of the way he's designed me in reality is uniquely different than the way he's designed other people. And so, therefore, he's put me in a specific place. I don't live in uh, Africa or China or Europe, or Hawaii. I live here, and there's specific people in my life, and I have specific things I'm good at, specific things I care about, specific things my heart leans to. So I have to begin by saying, well, hey, if I'm unique, then I have to learn about what I care about and what is important to me. But I also have to know that if he created me in that, then I have to learn about him. So, in other words, I can't just say, well, I think this is true about me, so I'm just going to go do, crazy things that maybe aren't very valuable to anybody, or maybe hurtful to people. I have to say, no, 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 I have to do those in the design of creation. So, if you believe there's a God and you believe he's designed you uniquely, but you also believe that he's put you in a specific place, and you also have to believe that he loves us. So if he loves us, and the word, love is part of that, but us is part of that, right? That means that he loves everybody, right? He loves everybody I come in contact with. And part of what he's given us to do is to create things that bless other people. So if what I'm doing isn't really blessing other people, well, then that's can't be part of calling. It can't be part of any real purpose. And therefore it's a distraction to purpose. It's a distraction to anything that I might want to accomplish. So I've got to say, okay, there's God, he's real, he's created me to be unique, he's created others to be unique, and he's created me to serve others and to create on behalf of others. And so all of those things have to be involved in my calling, if I have a calling. Now, do I have a calling? Well, already we can see he's given us things to do. He's calling us to do those things. He's calling us to do those in context with him, to have him be involved with it, and to guide us. And so, that is part of it, is how we must do things with him, right? So I think there's a couple things. I think that for our part, we have to come at that with clarity. We have to spend the time to understand ourselves, understand others, that who we want to serve and why we want to serve them, why God's put that on our heart. And we have to assume and start with faith, right? That he has indeed put those things on our heart. But we have to spend some time asking him and digging into and understanding the clarity. If I wanted to go to New York, I'd have to say, well, how am I going to go, and where am I going to go, and what am I going to, when am I going to go? I'd have to spend some time getting that clarity. So therefore I have to spend some time, getting the clarity of what I want to do with this. And I can get that clarity better if I realize I can involve him, because he wants to be involved and he does care about my work. It's not just like he threw me out there. So one is to get clarity, involve him in that. The other is to have courage. So if I'm going to go forward in this sense of calling, we live in a complex world, and the world, people don't necessarily like to use the word sin in, day-to-day motions, but, horrible things are happening all the time because of that reality that people are complex, and they're not necessarily, we're all not necessarily doing the things we should be doing in any given moment in time, and that has an impact on us. So we're going to have that happen, and that can be really catastrophic, horrible, even evil things, but it can also just be day-to-day difficulties in being able to effectively communicate. So it requires courage, because if I'm going to go pursue my calling, it's going to involve other people, because that's how calling works. It's all about serving. And when I serve other people, then it's going to sometimes be difficult. So I have to go find the courage, right? Where does courage come from? You know, it comes from having that heart. And it's easier to have courage if you're really convinced that you have the clarity that this is what you're supposed to go do. Then I have to work at it. I have to really be present every day. I have to live in the moment, work at it, continue to pursue God, and say, "Hey, why is this hard? And should I go here? Should I go there?" Involve Him in that day to day. That's part of what makes it calling, and not just me going off and doing my own thing. And then learning how to influence and love other people and serve well. And I think you get energy. I think energy comes when you're actually being who you're supposed to be, when you're going down the path that your heart's really leading you to. And I think it comes even more if we involve our Lord in it. And because he wants to be a part of that purpose. So I think when we do all of that, we end up with not only achieving things, but we end up with the happiness, the fulfillment that we desire. Even when things don't go well, we get fulfillment because we know we're pursuing something that is really important to us, that God has uniquely inspired us to do. So I think it's very difficult to pursue calling sometimes because it's just easier to kind of run off and do your own thing. But really that's a grace. Like God gave us grace, number one, that if we fall, He's there for us. But He also gave us all the grace to have all of these things available to us, to have our abilities, to have our skills, to have this group of people that are in our particular context that we can serve. And so if we're doing the work we need to do every day, then we're living inside of that grace and we're exercising that grace. And that's where we start to feel our fulfillment. So anyway, these are kind of some ramblings today on calling. I'm going to come back to you with some more structured things, but hopefully this is kind of an interesting thing for you to think about. I'd love for you to tell me, are you thinking about that? Are you thinking about how what you do every day really connects to calling? And why is it even worth thinking about that as opposed to just thinking about it in things that, that you're doing? Let me know. Now, if you are a person who's like, man, I'd really like to understand my calling better. I'd really like to get that clarity, and you're just struggling with it. Maybe you'd like to, have some conversation with somebody else and see if we can't unearth something. And that's one of the things I do in coaching with people is help them think about that clarity, think about that calling, think about how that fits in with their life and where they're going, and then actually start to get momentum going in that. So, if you want to have some conversation about that, I'd be happy to. And I was sharing with everybody yesterday. I've got 8 open free sessions this month, and so if you're interested in one of them, reach out to me. I'd love to ask you some coaching questions, see if we can't unlock some things for you and move that forward. Anyway, have a great day and continue to pursue it because God really is calling you to love and good deeds. And it's really interesting when you start to say, well, how does that fit my day-to-day work? Instead of seeing that as some separate thing from Him. So hopefully that makes sense to you. Love to hear your thoughts on it. Let me know. Take care. Bye-bye.